My name is Jerry. I left MAGA, and I'm here to spill all the tea. So, as the title of this video suggests, um, this is an open confessional. In my last confessional, I forgot to show my tattoos. I took a couple of pictures and I posted them, but we're going to go ahead and talk about those today. Uh, all of my tattoos have multiple meanings. They have an outward meaning to people, and then they have that personal meaning, and that's how it works with a lot of folks that get ink. Um, First off, I want to show you that tattoo. That's the Confederate battle flag. That's the very first tattoo I ever got. It was back in 1986. I was stationed in England, assigned to the 819th Red Horse. It's a Air Force Combat Engineering Unit. Sorry, I keep looking up at my monitor. Um, it's a combat engineering unit within the United States Air Force, and I served with them from late '84 to early '87. If I remember right, the exact dates were September '84 to February of '87. But anyway, President Reagan was the POTUS. Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister of England. I thought it was a pretty good time to be in the military. I mean, nobody was really messing with us, or so it seemed. Looking back, there was a whole lot going on. I was stationed over there in England when we did the bombing run on Gaddafi on in Tripoli back in '86. That was a wild experience. I'll have to tell that story in another video, standalone. But I was stationed there in England, and I had befriended a couple of guys from the Lake Charles, Louisiana area, and they informed me that the 13th star on the Confederate battle flag is stands for Missouri, which is accurate. And there's a book out there called Borderland Rebellion, and it makes this whole argument that hi Smokey that when when Missouri seceded from the Union and joined the Confederacy, that the Union did not recognize the secession, and therefore during Reconstruction, according to this argument, Missouri, since their secession was not recognized by the Union, was apparently not required to reapply for or apply for readmission into the Union during Reconstruction. So there's this whole argument that Missouri is the last Confederate state of America. I've not run that one all the way through yet. I've been untangling a lot of other stuff. But it was the initial reason I got the tattoo was because of the fact that I was proud to be from Missouri, and I bought into the narrative at that time that the Civil War was about states' rights. I know much better now that it was actually about humans wanting to protect their rights to own humans, or rights to own humans, which is very wrong. And this is a great time for me to address the fact that I think the 13th Amendment needs to be amended. Um, I feel that incarceration, along with education, is appropriate for certain crimes. I no longer support the death penalty on that note. But in the 13th Amendment, it makes it makes slavery illegal, makes forced labor illegal, except in cases of incarceration. Private prisons, it's a whole industry. We can get into that another time. But back to the Confederate battle flag tattoo, it was about state pride and the whole thought that the Civil War was about states' rights. Not true. Not true. So that gets me over to how I was raised in church as a segregationist. One of the stories that I often share is when I was growing up, there was this white woman that moved into town, and she had some children, that were obviously not Snow White. And then her boyfriend moved into town a couple of weeks later, a week or two later, and it was obvious he wasn't white. I mean, he was ebony black. And I never met the guy, but I know that the people in my local community made this family feel uncomfortable enough that they ended up moving out like within a month of moving in. She had like two or three kids. Here's the weirdness of it for me and where I grew up. We had Filipino doctors in town. They were our doctors, and they had really smart kids that reflected really well on our community. And even though the black white couple and their offspring were not accepted, the Filipinos were, but they didn't live in town. They lived outside the city in a little area that they had developed for themselves, and it was affectionately known, or colloquially known, I'll put it that way, colloquially known as Pineapple Acres. So yeah, in the 70s, it was kind of insensitive down there in southwest Missouri. Um, so yeah, that's where that tattoo comes in. The whole segregationist concept, not believing in interracial relationships, which I've met some people that aren't white that I would much rather date than some people that are white. I don't think skin color has anything to do with it. It's what's on the inside. And I know some folks take some take pause when I talk about being an agnostic, but I grew up in one of those Holy Ghost, Bible thumping, speaking in tongues, slaying in the spirit, dancing in the spirit, name it and claim it, laying on of hands and healing prayers and all that. I mean, it was just absolute charismania. I later felt similar emotional sensations at rock concerts, other music concerts, pagan rallies. We'll I got some other tattoos to show you. Not today, but I got some other tattoos to show you that will help track my life story because that's what my tattoos are about. But anyway, yeah, life experience led me into a point where I don't know the universe well enough to say there is no God. I can't be a pure atheist, but I also see that there's a lot of people that just do good things because it's the humane thing to do. They don't pray at all, and some of them do pray, but they pray to different gods than the Christians do. And that's where I am with it. I don't care if you pray or who you pray to, as long as you're a good person doing good things for your fellow humans. We can probably get along. I don't care about all that dogmatic stuff anymore. I got one other tattoo to show you, and that's this Crusader cross, this Jerusalem cross. And again, it has multiple meanings. Initially, reaching back to my childhood, being raised in a militant ideology, we regularly othered people. It made it easier to target them. It made it easier to belittle them and berate them, and all they just don't understand, mock pity, because we're better than them. Elitism, very narcissistic in its nature. It cultivates. I, oh, look at what we're dealing with now. I mean, it's towards the end of January, or it's what, January 22nd, 2026, and we have a lot of narcissistic individuals running around on the street, creating havoc and wreaking chaos because they don't care, because they've been cultivated into that sort of thinking pattern. They feel like they're elite. But beyond that, when I got the tattoo, that would have been 2016. I had just separated from a domestic abuser. We were going through a divorce. I was going through training to become an advocate against domestic and sexual violence and human trafficking. I felt like I had a crusade. I had a battle to fight. I had a mission to do, and that's something else about the MAGA movement. And it actually shows up in that in a Netflix series called Boots, which I think we're like into the third episode of it. It's actually pretty good. I'll give a review on it when we're done watching the series. But um, there's a moment in there where a veteran dad makes has got his kid believing that what a man needs is a mission, and that's much the mentality within the MAGA movement. They believe they have a mission, even if it's counterintuitive to rational thinking from the sane world, which I I actually that's really difficult for me to say because we're all a little bit crazy. We're all a bit mad here. But anyway, yeah, back to the Jerusalem cross and its multiple levels. The reason I went with red is because I had survived some stuff. I had even shed blood because of what had happened. If you want to know more, I can go into that later. Just you can ask below, comments, any feedback or any further questions. I'm more than happy to answer them. Just be be forewarned. I'm gonna be honest with my answers. I'm not as brutal with my honesty as I used to be, but I'm still very open, very forthright, and I will provide receipts for my statements. But the confessional is just me rambling, explaining things from my own point of view, my own experience. But yeah, and also in 2016, I was getting really deep into the Eric Greitens campaign. He was running for governor in the state of Missouri. I dedicated so many hundreds of hours to the call bank, talking to fellow veterans, and to make it easier for me to get from the apartment that I was living in at the time to the call bank center in downtown Columbia, Missouri. It took a long time to get there by bus. So these people pulled money together and went and bought me a $300 used 18-speed mountain bike so I could get back and forth. Um, Got to meet Eric Greitens a couple of times, shook his hand. Was really starting to get into the whole MAGA thing. There was this whole drain the swamp, and I was a Republican, and I'd given up on listening to Glenn Beck by then, but I never really got into Alex Jones. His rage just always irritated me. But I would listen to his listeners. I would talk with his listeners, and we could talk about some of these theories, and some of them made sense. I have a video that I posted. I was asked a compound question. Here's what I found. It was an Alex Jones follower, uh, and when I was challenging Alex Jones's information sources, this dude that was a buddy of mine at that time was like, "Oh yeah, Alex is honest and open about CIA and FBI and his past, his family and blah blah blah, but he's not manipulated. He's independent." And I'm just like, you just realize you just poked all kinds of holes in your support for this guy, right? He's like, "Oh no, he knows the inside, so he knows what's going on. He's telling us, he's giving us the real scoop." And I'm just like, it wasn't long after that we ended up parting ways. He was and still is very, very dedicated to Trump. In fact, he reached out to me here not too long ago, and it's like, "I know we had to falling out, but how you doing?" I'm like, "I'm living the best life ever," which is true. I mean, we got Mozart right here and a mushroom wizard hat, and then we got Beethoven back there, and you might be able to see get my angles right here, and that piano there in the corner. That's my girlfriend's granddad, and man, I love my life because she's like, well, baby doll, I got to put in some work, and then she sits down and plays show tunes for an hour. I mean, because she's playing piano accompaniment for little local high school choirs, or I got to watch her experience her learning how to improv on the piano because she's a classically trained pipe organist and pianist. And so getting to see her really broaden her interests has been really cool. I really appreciated being along with her. But when we first got together a little over a year and a half ago, I mentioned that cat, Peter Thiel, and she's like, well, who's that? And she'd never heard his name. And then, like, in the next several months, you just could not escape the name Peter Thiel. She's introduced me to a good collective of individuals, and at least one of them has expressed that they're really happy that they met me because I had this background that I have. You know, a killer for Christ. Um, yeah, well, I'll have to do a profile on Vance Bolter, the guy that shot the Hortman family and shot and killed the Hortman family, and uh, shot another family up there in Minnesota. I'm trying not to digress because I'm working without a script, and my brain is just really wanting to go. Yeah, yeah, let's talk about him. No, 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 no. We're back to talking about this Jerusalem cross and Crusader tattoo. Um, Within the MAGA movement and within Christianity as a whole, but particularly in the MAGA movement, putting on the whole armor of Christ is literal to them. Uh, I'm pretty sure that that's what some of these ICE agents believe that they're doing. I believe that they honestly think that they've put on the armor of Christ when they put on that body armor. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll do a piece breaking down all the scriptures. It's intense. It's intense, and I used to believe like that. Um, there's a song called "Killing for Jesus" by the Circle Jerks. If you're not familiar with it, I recommend you go check it out. It really helps explain a lot of the mentality that has been put together within the American military, and it's also reflected in the history of the FBI. That book, The Gospel of J. Edgar Hoover, man, that was what I needed. I've been deep diving for 3 years now, trying to find no over 3 years now, trying to find the bottom of the cesspool that is this administration that we're dealing with. And I finally, thanks to Lerone Martin, I finally have found the bottom of the cesspool of Christian nationalism. I found its root. Billy Graham and Richard Nixon. It's that it's that whole we are a Christian nation, and it's our duty as Christians to stand up and fight to protect Christians. It's the whole Crusader mentality. And Pete Hegseth with this Deus Volt thing, man, that dude's so far off on the deep end without floaties. It's crazy. I mean, I was willing to sign a contract at the age of 17, and my parents were willing to sign off to ship me off early because that's what was required. And, to provide that commitment because in the Assembly of God Church, you're supposed to grow up to be a preacher, a businessman, a politician, or a soldier, or any combination of the four. I'm a good businessman. Uh, I've gotten to a point where I despise politics, but I'm forced to play it still because of the environment that we live in. I got the veteran thing under my belt, not a problem. I got the DD 214 to prove it. General under honorable conditions, if you want to know, on my discharge. And then I've had people that have recognized my knowledge of the Bible. One of my former compatriots when I was in MAGA suggested I should be a street preacher. I didn't want that headache. Um, the pastor of the church that I hang out with, I don't believe the same way they do. I won't join their membership rolls, but I enjoy being with them. I enjoy engaging with them because we are of a like mind. And I think that's what is meant in the Bible when it says, be not unequally yoked. I don't think it has anything to do with personal belief systems. I think it has everything to do with you can personally believe differently, but if both bodies are working towards a common good for people or a common good, that's equally yoked. If you're looking to work with people that are doing homeless intervention, but I don't know, one of them's a progressive Methodist and one of them's a Buddhist and one of them's a progressive Catholic and one's Hindu and you got an atheist and an agnostic. If they're all working towards the same goal of helping get people off the street, help them get the mental health that they need and the health care that they need, and the physical health care that they need, and vocational rehabilitation if needed, and provide them with all these hand ups instead of hand outs, then what does it matter what one's personal faith system is? Be not unequally yoked. Don't be tied to people that don't think the same way you do. No, don't, because actions speak louder than words, right? You will know them by their fruits. The pastor at the church I hang out with often says that she thinks I'm doing the work of God. If being an empathetic human being is the work of God, so be it. I just I don't have the evidence to prove definitively one way or another that there is or isn't a God, but I like good people doing good things. I do know that I am an atheist in reference to the Christian nationalist, Christian dominionist God. I don't believe in that character. Man, that's one spiteful, bipolar, manipulative. Oh my goodness. We'll get through all that as I break down the different doctrines. Anyway, I've rambled for some time now. What is it? 23 minutes. Holy cow. Uh, I think I'm gonna close the confessional for now. I If you have any further questions or want deeper explanations, go ahead and drop some explanation or drop comments in the uh, yeah. Sorry. Let me explain. I have fibromyalgia and I'm in St. Louis, Missouri, and there's some wicked weather blowing in. And sometimes it activates the fibromyalgia and that can cause some brain fog and quite often a lot of physical discomfort, which can interrupt thought processes. And today I'm having a particularly difficult body day. So apologies for all the uhs and ums and the needing to pause and pull my thoughts together. But that's what's going on with me today. I also want to announce, sort of as a channel update, that I've got some videos lined up based on some articles that I wrote about 2 years ago. And it's a four-part series called Everybody Wants to Rule the World. And that's why I use that closing clip on my regular videos, which, by the way, as of yesterday, that has caused me a demonetization copyright. And frankly, I don't care because I had no intention of monetizing my videos. I'm doing okay financially. I really am. Between my VA income and my Social Security disability, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I'm not hurting. But anyway, until the next video, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Get plenty of rest if you can, and try to get plenty of fluids. Thanks for sticking to the end.